Queens, New York legend Kevin Kelley being inducted into the New York Hall of Fame on March 30th. Congratulations, Kevin. You're being inducted in your first year of eligibility. How'd you get the word that you're being inducted?
I got a call from Bobby Cassidy out of New York City. You know, his father was a senior Bobby Cassidy. And he contacted me and let me know what the process was about to take place. And that, I didn't even know I was even up for nomination. And I was like, wow. So I said, okay, I was impressed. And, sometimes you think when people, you're not doing the sport no more, that people forget about you. You know what I'm saying? And I've been doing a great deal of interviews lately. In boxing, I've also commentated the fight. So that kind of kept me back in the game and keeps me visual. So I was very surprised when I got inducted.
And did you even realize that you were retired for 5 years already? Because time flies.
Really? I've been counting a little bit because there's also the Canastota one. So I've been counting, years before I was moved for anything. To see what my boxing peers think of me. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, your boxing peers. And did I leave an impression? Have I made a mark in the game? Yeah, of course I can be too arrogant, cocky myself. But yes, I did a lot of things that are great fights, but it's not about that. It's about what your peers really thought about you. Because you never can look at yourself from the outside. So you even know what other people think about you.
Yeah, and take us back to how it all started. How did the Flesh and Flash come to be? I mean, how old were you when you first walked into a gym, Kevin?
15 years old when I first started boxing. I really wanted a jacket, and didn't get the jacket, and I got a career. And, I think that's the way God works for me personally and inspired me to actually, not the box. I just wanted the jacket. I really did give me the jacket, I might have walked out the gym. But before I knew it, people do something when they're good at it. And I started noticing I was actually pretty decent at this, boxing. I was running around the gym, and the guys in the gym, my goal was really to get better than the guys in the gym. That was my goal. And I set the goal for New York City, first the gym, and then New York City, then New York State, then the whole America, then the world. And that's the process that I went in. After I conquered one thing, I kept conquering, I was out to conquer something else. So I didn't know I had this competitive attitude about me. And I know I played football and basketball and stuff on the street with my friends, but I didn't know I had a competitive attitude when it came to sports as much as I had there. And to kind of find out, I was very competitive. I wanted to be the best after a while. And I continued on my pursuit. And before I knew it, I was Golden champion. I was Eastern Regional champion. Eastern Regional champion. Before you know it, I was world champion.
Mm-hmm. And what gym did you go to first?
I went to a gym in New York City. I'm a Flushing, Queens, called the PAL 110. The trainer there who later on became my professional world champion.
Who was it? Phil Borgia? Is that what he said? Who trained there? Hello?
Yeah, Phil Borgia, former Vietnam vet, boxed amateur himself, never really turned pro. Mm-hmm. Had a few fights. We trained at the same discipline of Shaolin style, Jeet Kune Do, a few martial arts background, Wing Chun, Shotokan. And he was from that field. Mm-hmm. So he put it into a boxing format. And that's exactly how my style derived. It derived from a bunch of different styles, pretty much based on Jeet Kune Do, which is Bruce Lee style of no style. And the rest is all history. I started advancing with the style, using the style. With God given natural ability, and it just worked out together. They both of them worked together, and it was amazing. Amazing ride.
You did have an original style. I never saw anyone fight in the way you did. So that's how it came from, huh? Came from
my style pretty much now I'll expose it to people is that, because I went to study me when I was boxing, it's pretty much, I say about 85 to 90% of it's martial arts. It's really Wing Chun and Shotokan, a lot of that. Philippine fighting stick style. So I relate more to the martial arts side of me than I do the boxing side of me. Boxing tradition are not things that I actually, the people thought I was awkward, unorthodox. It really wasn't. It was just a different format. Like Bruce Lee gave us the format for it. Give us the blueprint. Jeet Kune Do stands for hand into something fist. And that's exactly what my style is based on. It's based upon no style. That I can use and derive style from different opponents, different other fighters out there. I emulated Sugar Ray and Hagler and Sal Muhammad, Jeff Chandler, and the list goes on and on. I just copying style. Wayne McCullough, C.D. Forbes, anybody out there that's been a champion or a credible fighter, I would emulate.
Yeah, I always loved the drama that Phil Borgia brought to your corner. It was so New York. It was perfect for you and him to be together. I always loved hearing what he'd tell you in the corner and how you guys worked together. It was perfect. Do you still keep in?
He made it very important for me to listen to him. Like I said, I trained blindfolded. A lot of people still ask me about that, the Gary Gainer fight, when he said to me, I trained you with no eyes. And people still ask me about that. And then, yeah, he did. He did train me fine, but fight blindfolded. He was blindfolded in the gym. I was always challenged. He never, you know what I'm saying? It was always a new challenge. Some days I would come to the gym, take my shoes off. I have to train barefooted. Just off down stuff. Just anything that was a challenge. It had to be very challenging to me.
Wow.
And as I went on later on, I did a lot of different training. I didn't hit the wood dummy, the wood martial arts dummy that they have. Fight used sticks against me, all kinds of things. He believed that whether a guy was going to kick a punch, I should be aware of all of it.
Would you say you were? I'm sorry. Continue.
But I was good. What you saying?
You said that you were good at it. Were you good as soon as you walked in the gym? Like the first time you tried it, did you know you were good at this already?
No, the first time I walked in the gym, I didn't know that I was decent at it until a few months in. I was decent because I won some fights. But more or less, I was just in the gym waiting to get the jacket. I was just going through the motions. And when Phil motivated me by saying I got to be better than the guys in the gym to get one, so I was rehearsing, trying to get better than the guys in the gym. So I think it's a matter of time before I get better than the guys in the gym, hopefully, right? So my goal was actually to get better than the guys in the gym. That's where it started. So I felt I would get a jacket, but I forgot about the jacket once I started traveling worldwide. And I was on the USA boxing team for a while. I went to England. I went to Scandinavia. And I went to these other places. Then after a while, I was like, wow, maybe I wasn't really thinking about it. It was just fun. But I enjoyed doing it. It was so much fun to do it.
Yeah, that's probably why you got so good at it. Did you have Olympic dreams?
Not really. Everything that I got when I got there. In other words, I didn't know about it before, but when I got to that plateau, then I thought about it. For example, when I sparred a guy that won the Golden Gloves, I sparred him for the whole session. Pat Sullivan, first Golden Glove champion from our gym. That's when I took note about the Golden Gloves. I wanted to win the Golden Gloves. And then when I got rated in the country, I was number 3 in the country, and then I wanted to go for the trials. So every time I learned boxing by doing it. It was like a hands-on situation. And in my next step, I got close to it, which allowed me to pursue it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Did you What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I didn't know about it before I got close to it.
No.
So then I learned boxing hands-on, a real hands-on kind of guy, and each step of the way, I kind of got an idea what the next step for me is. By doing it, either coming up short or winning it. I won tournaments and I didn't know what it was. I had no idea.
Yeah. Take me back to when you were getting better and going for the Golden Gloves. What was it like in New York at that time in the gyms and stuff? Because right now it's not a hotbed like it used to be. But what was it like when you were coming up?
Yeah, New York City's changed a lot. It's not the same city it used to be. See, the difference with New York City now and then. New York City, when I was coming up, we had the Garden. We had Thursday night fights, right? And Bobby Goodman had a team. The MSG, Madison Square Garden, had a team. You had Buddy McGirt, Juan Laporte, Sal Mambi. You had Tunji Forster. You had so many good fighters. So had a showcase where they could fight out of. And being that's gone, New York can't build any more talent like they used to years ago. When I was coming up, Riddick Bowe was coming up, we won the Golden Gloves. So we were actually able to see some of the training, some of the gyms with some of the other champions, the old Gleasons with all these fighters fighting, Buddy McGirt and all these guys. So we got a chance, even Billy Costello, a great plethora of fighters and champions that was actually amongst us. So we were motivated to be like them or be better than them, Boxing today in New York City is kind of dead, really. You're trying to revive with the Barclays Center, and you got Kid Chocolate and stuff like that. Will it ever be the same? I don't think so, because boxing in New York doesn't have really a format like it used to have. You know, when you were amateur, you won a Golden Glove, and Bobby Goodman, it was like a farming system where his farmers in the Golden Glove to turn pro, and they had a farming system and the professionals to build us. They don't have that no more. Where Vegas now is more or less, I would say, the top grooming ground for competitive fighters. Even fighters that are from different states move to Vegas to be competitive. You got Sean Porter lives here now. You got Chad Dawson. You got Zab Judah. You got, every champion, Mayweather. You got, if they don't fight here, they train here. Like Berman Sturbine, the number one heavyweight in the world right now. My trainer, Don House, trains him. He trains in Vegas. So most fighters today actually train in Vegas. Vegas is the cooking ground, I would say, for the top fighters in the world.
It is. California too, but you don't see it as much in like New York. Texas used to be a hotbed. You don't see it anywhere anymore. Now it's just basically California and Las Vegas.
It's not even California. California fighters train in Vegas also. Vegas is the cooking ground. I think Vegas has always been a cooking ground, but the problem is it never got the notoriety of it. You know what I'm saying? Because other places had mega fights go on, like Florida and stuff like that used to have it. But Vegas is, it can stand longevity because it's got the biggest hotels in the world and it has the rooms to put the big fights on. Okay, they got the money to pay the fighters. So at the end of the day, Vegas prevailed over everybody because, you got high taxes in New York City, medium taxes in Florida. So you're going to put a fight on, the best place, of course, is Vegas, okay, with entertainment capital of the world. So that's why Vegas is a cooking bed for everybody. You got Mike Tyson here, Leon Spinks lives here, Ernie Shavers lives in Vegas. So you got such a great fluctuation, I would say, of talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're totally right. What was your final amateur record? How many fights you have?
The amateurs, I believe I was 70 wins and 5 losses. And I don't remember the knockouts. I never counted my knockouts. I never looked at my record as far as that. But I lost in the trials. I went for the Olympics. And I didn't like the fight I had in the trials. I thought it was kind of ugly. I actually fought Carl Daniels. Okay. Actually, his way it worked is the 5'2" world champions, became world champions in weight classes. I boxed. I'm the one. I eliminated Shabby Mitchell from the trials. It was a close decision. We were best of friends, and we didn't really want to fight. And we didn't even care if he won, I won. We really didn't care. It came down to the wire. I won by 1 point. So he got eliminated out the trials, and then I wound up going to the semifinals of Olympic trials and fighting Carl Daniels. And I dropped Carl Daniels in the first round, the third round. I thought I won an easy fight going to the Olympics, and he got a decision on me. And at that point, I had a bad taste from the amateurs, and I wasn't going to go backwards. And I said, I'm going professional. I'm not going to ever touch the amateurs again. Mm-hmm. They invited me to the box office as an alternative, and I said no, I wouldn't go. Yeah. So, I left the amateurs with a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, and you ended up turning pro and had one of the great careers in the history of the sport. If you could pick 3 fights that you could put in a time capsule where in the future people want to know who the Flesh and Flash Kevin Kelley is and they could only see 3 fights, what 3 fights would you pick?
The first one would always be me and Derek Smogina.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I'd rather add a 4th because I got 4 fights I think that are pivotal to people talk to me constantly about. And Derek Smogina is one. Mm-hmm. Constantly. Okay? Mm-hmm. Also, they talk to me about the Prince fight. So I would put that second because with me and Smogina was really a fight where I had to come back from total oblivion, okay? Mm-hmm. With a closed eye and everything working against me to stop Gaina and beat him on Roy Jones's card in Florida. There was nothing I could do to keep my title, and I knew that. So, people like when you go against all the odds, and that's a fight against every odd. The Prince fight, why? Because it turned just, I thought it was going to be nothing. I didn't think anything of the fight. I don't think my psyche, at that point in my career, I was so just looking for an opponent to excite me a little bit, because nobody ever did, right? I was looking for something that I needed to motivate me to continue my career. And the Prince fight, definitely, because I didn't really get wanted to beat him as much as I wanted to beat him until the bell rang. Yeah. And all the shenanigans that went on in the ring was incredible. It turned out to be an incredible fight for the fans. I'm glad they enjoy that. And that's a gift I think they should have for the rest of their lives. My 3rd fight would definitely be me and Troy Dorsey. breaking the Guinness Book of World Records and a week later getting beat by Zach Padilla. Why? All-out war. You know what I'm saying? All-out war. 2,806 punches thrown in the fight. The first man, number one IBF champion, number one in the IBF, number one in the BC to me at the same time. You know, you don't see fights like that happening too often in boxing. You know, promoters will never let that happen. When two number ones fight each other. You know, because there's a career-defining fight. And that actually built me. Because without Troy Dorsey, I wouldn't know what I have, that I can go that far. You know, he took me to the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
I knew at that point I was a fighter.
Yeah, they don't come tougher than Troy Dorsey. They don't come tougher.
Yeah, and that man, we talk on the phone sometimes, we text each other. We're good friends. We're good friends to Prince also, and we're good friends to Smoke Gainer. And another fight that people might have missed in my career was a great fight, was me and Ricardo Rivera.
Yes. Yes, I remember that fight. I loved it.
A lot of people don't talk about that fight, but that fight was great because I psychologically, my brain wasn't where it needed to be. I suffered my first loss. It was my first fight back after my first loss of my career. Instead of me taking off, I let the promoters talk me back into getting back in the ring right away. And it made sense what they said. They said, the way you make people forget a loss is get a win. Mm-hmm. And that makes a lot of sense. And to me, but really I wasn't psychologically ready. And I knew I wasn't ready. I thought I was ready for the fight until I got on a plane. When I got on a plane, I was second guessing myself. So I kind of thought I was in trouble. You know, I'm not the regular confident Kevin where I know what I can do before I do it. And when the bell rang, everything went wrong. And when I looked up at guard in round 8, okay, and I asked him, listen, if it's going to be over now, just give me one more round. And, and my trainer, I had to argue with my trainer stopping the fight. Bill wanted to stop the fight in round 7. And he told me, if I don't do something in the next round, he's going to stop the fight. He said, I love you. I don't want you to get hurt. And right now, you're getting hurt. He said, so I'm going to stop the fight. Now, I asked Phil, in that fight, I said, I'll never get it. You never know what you've gotten to in that situation. I tell people, no fighter knows what they're capable of doing until you're in that situation. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They might say they can do this and they'll do that. But until you're in that situation, you really don't know. You know what I'm saying? Who you're made of, what you're made of, what you can do. So the Dorsey fight kind of got me ready for that fight, looking back in hindsight.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned the Naseem Hamed fight, because some people would just pick out their wins to put in that time capsule, but you didn't win that fight, but it was epic. I'll never forget that fight, the excitement that went along with it. And of course that Derek Gainer fight was incredible. I think that would be everyone's favorite fight that they remember because it was on HBO. And one of the other fights that I loved was Ricardo Rivera. I remember your eye was closed. I remember all the dramas you mentioned with Phil Borgia doing that. Do you think that you had that attitude, that never quit attitude, because you trained like that with Phil Borgia, like blindfolding you and making you fight like that? It had to help you. Did Phil believe that was possible? Did he feel like by saying he was going to stop the fight, was he trying to ignite something in you because he did train you that way?
Well, he felt I was going nowhere. And Ricardo Rivera, the only fight Phil ever seen Phil want to stop on me is Ricardo Rivera. Usually he still knows, I'm a juggernaut. I'm not made to stop. I'm not built to quit. Phil knows that he has to save me from myself. He knows that. Yep. So that's what the trainer's for, on all fighters. Yep. The trainer, in my wife's box, or the she box, I'm there to save him from myself. A fighter's not made to quit. That's why people watch us, because a fighter shouldn't quit. When a fighter quit, when Durant did no mas, at that moment, the world turned upside down. Mm-hmm. And to this day, he has to explain no mas. You know what I'm saying? A fighter saying no more. Because fighters are not supposed to quit. Yep. They got to be saved from themselves. We're supposed to be self-destructive. We're supposed to be suicidal. You know what I'm saying? We are the risk takers. We are the guys that go against death. So people watch us because of that. They want to see how far will we go. How much can he take? Okay, that's what Rocky Marciano's noted for. Because he took such a beating to get a knockout late in the fight. He wouldn't even win the fight, but he would knock you out so late in the fight, and you'd be tired. Because those guys that weigh down, nutrition, Juan Diaz, another guy, Wayne McCullough, guys that just keep coming and take all the abuse, and eventually they will succeed. That mentality came from Master Saad Muhammad with me. That I watched Saad Muhammad go through war after war after war, lose every single round, and knock you out in the 10th round, or 12th round, or 15th round. Mm-hmm. So, me, I felt as long as I'm alive and breathing, I have a shot. But, also the God-given gifts that I had with the hand speed and the punching power, definitely helped me out a great deal, you know. Having hand speed the way I did was really, really helpful because I always tried to hit my target. And the punching power, I don't know where that came from, but, you know, definitely didn't stop me from getting guys out there. And me being dangerous all the time was definitely, and I always felt every round. And any round you can go. And when I was coming up, I got guys out early, and later on, as I got older, I got guys out later. But there's always a chance that I can get you. And I always told people, don't go to the bathroom on my fights because at any given time, I can end the fight.
Yeah. Yep. And we both mentioned the Hamed fight. It's one of our favorites. I'm a boxing nut, always have been, and I try to watch everything. I wish things like YouTube were around back when you were fighting because you'd have a lot more people who knew who you were at the time. You'd make a lot more money, and now we have YouTube. So I was watching Naseem Hamed talk, and he said how you guys keep in contact and stuff. And
yeah, we talk.
And I heard him tell a funny story of when you guys were about to fight. You told him you were going to smoke his boots.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Very true. He told the story right. He didn't know what that meant. He was, smoke your boots was a slang term back then. I'm gonna smoke your boots. He was out back in the 90s when I fought him. It's something that we used to say. And I just told him, Hamed up to that point never had a guy to talk trash to him. Yeah, I know how Hamed is because I went and challenged Hamed. And in England, all the guys that he fought pretty much Mexicans or Colombians or someone else, and they didn't talk English. So when he was talking, they didn't understand that he was putting them down. But they understood it. So they never try to talk back to him, or because that's the way his style is. But I'm a talker too. So when he ran into me, we were kind of evenly matched. Okay, at that point, there's just all the difference was I was a little older and no longer really a featherweight at that moment. But at the time I fought him, I was 47 wins, 1 loss. So there was nothing there but pure that I wanted to beat this guy and keep moving. To the next step. Because I was running out of opponents, and Ahmed was a new guy. Cause at the time when I fought Ahmed, I was the leading featherweight in the world at the time, and there was nobody else. Tom Johnson wouldn't fight me, and I saw him fight Prince, and I was like, man, that's crazy. I couldn't get G. Jones in the ring. I couldn't get anybody in the ring to fight me, so I went to England and challenged the Prince.
No.
Twice.
No. Oh, you went 2 times?
I went 2 times. I went the first time, and then I already went to fight me. He was going to fight me, so I flew back and challenged him again. I jumped in the ring on him, and we good friends. And but even when I was challenging him, we were kind of pretty cool. He was kind of. I think he was kind of more shocked, like who's this crazy American chasing me down? He saw me. He saw my career, so he knew who I was, and I think he was a little bit thrown back by. Before that, everybody would avoid him, but as I was chasing him. You know what I'm saying? And he wanted to know why I was chasing him. You know what I'm saying? So he finally signed a contract to fight me. He said he's coming to America, the Garden. I didn't care if it was in Sheffield if I had to go fight him. And we took it on. And congratulations to him. I got careless and he took advantage of me. So he's supposed to do that. I told him before the fight. I said, you better get me before I get you because I'm going to try to get you. And I let him know it. I can let every opponent know that I fought. That if you don't get me first, I'm going to get you. So, we were equally matched. We had hand speed, both had hand speed, punching power, both hands. I was lefty, he's lefty. He fights righty, I fight righty. So it was a pretty even matchup. It's just that he had the age on his side. He was the younger of the 2. And we went to war. And I was hoping that I could have a trilogy with him, but he would never get back in the ring with me.
When's the last time you spoke to the Prince?
When's the last time? Just 2 months ago, maybe? What? I talked to Ahmed.
Sometime last year.
Yeah, sometime last year. A few months from now, I'll say for now. He'll call me from time to time. I know he'll call me maybe once, twice a year. He'll talk. We'll be on the phone for 5 or 6 hours. He'll call me out of the blue, and we used to talk about the fight, and what went on, and this and that and the other. Because like I said, with me, I got about 10 fights like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Where with him, he only had 1. It was me. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So he didn't have a set of career. Like the Prince, I think, instead of retiring, would have made a great legacy for him. Would have been after he lost to Barrera, right? Even my fight, rematch me. After he lost to Barrera, come back from Barrera fight and work your way back to beat Barrera. See, people in America are different than people in Europe. In Europe, they had Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank and these guys. In America, it mean nothing to us because they didn't come the hard way like we had to. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get a title shot off 36-0, so we had to work and earn everything we got.
Yeah.
In Europe, they get one fighter that's decent, and they think it's the greatest fight that happened. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot different. The curriculum there is different than the curriculum here in America. I'm competing with football. I'm competing with basketball. I'm competing with baseball. I'm competing with soccer. I'm competing with every sport in the world to get my own light. You know what I'm saying? And in America, when you're the best, you got to be the best. There's no doubt you're the best.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We can go abroad and dominate even more stronger. But very rarely do they ever come here and dominate. Because we have a lot of guys waiting to take them down. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's a huge, huge difference.
Do you talk about those things with the Prince when you talk to him? What do you guys talk about now?
Yeah. His impression of America is totally different than what I told him. See, they think that we like multimillionaires here just because of who you are. I told them, well, you got a really mistaken wrong here. I said, you got me, Junior Jones, you got Turagani, you got so many guys. Okay, so much of a selection. I said, guys in America, if you come to America, friends, you're going to have 10 guys waiting to fight you. Roy Jones took an ad out for Smoke Gainer to fight him. Every fight in America, see, and over there, he would bring guys in from Colombia, from Mexico, or whatever. And he would fight them. He could fight Joe Blow. And people will watch. In America, you got to fight somebody that has a chance of beating you for the spectator to watch. So it's a total different atmosphere. Okay? In Europe, when they get a stinger or somebody that's popular, okay, everybody will support that person. In America, you're more about defending who you are. Okay? If you're a singer, you got to sing that quality forever. Okay? And you got to compete against other singers that's trying to knock you off your pedestal. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. America's a lot more competitive than Europe or even the Philippines. Look at Pacquiao. You get one Pacquiao, and the Philippines goes crazy. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We done had 50 versions of that. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot harder here in the States to survive and to make it than any other place in the world.
Yeah, totally right. Yeah, and did you start your acceptance speech yet? And is there a time limit? I wonder if there's a time limit.
Now, with me, you know, I'll think about it as it gets closer. You know, to touch on the vital points of it, I might be short. It would be, you know, I probably won't be that long. You know, everybody thinks for me a long time because I don't talk to the person. But when it comes to important things like that, mm-hmm. I really set a stage, I give my point of view. It's not that I'm saying, it's what I'm saying. You know, I'm very accurate trying to pick what I'm going to focus it on. The important people in my lives that made a difference to help get me there, you know. You know, Hall of Fame, everything like I said, every stage of my career is a step. I never looked at it until I was in that situation. The same thing with Hall of Fame. When I got invited to Canastota for the first time, I never knew about it.
Yeah. And
I realized at that point, and people could thank Canastota for the Gainer fight, because if it wasn't for Canastota, I would have fought Smoke Gainer.
Yep.
The reason people saw me back in the ring doing what I do is because I realized I had more work to do. For me to get into the halls, I felt, even though the world didn't feel that way at that point, maybe they felt that I was an instant hall, but I felt that I needed more work. I didn't want no questions asked if they were going to try to induct me. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I wanted to give them 120%, not 100, 120. And I fought Derek Smoke Gainer because Marvin Hagler told me, Kevin, you need to take this fight, and you need to prove them wrong. Because everybody thinks you're going to lose this fight. So with that negative talk and the positive information, I went on to pursue to fight Smoke Gainer. And that's the reason why I fought Smoke Gainer, because Marvin Hagler had told me to do the fight. And I promised him I would do it.
Wow. That's incredible. Incredible stories, huh? And
yeah. That happened that Hall of Fame weekend, matter of fact. It happened that Hall of Fame weekend, my first time I was there. Because I felt, that if I left the question mark, it's almost like the Apprentice career has a huge question mark on it. Why he never rematched Kevin Kelley? Why he didn't go after Barrera? Why he just quit just out of nowhere, right? So those question marks will always be on his career. And I don't know if that would prohibit him from being in the hall. You know? Yeah. And where people always have those questions will always be unanswered.
Yeah.
Not because I wouldn't fight him again, because I would fight him right away. But he didn't want to do it no more. He didn't mind. He told me, I don't mind losing, but I don't want to get knocked out.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So with me, he knew that I was going to try to knock him out. But Barrera, he knew he was going to carry the 12-round decision. So that's the difference.
Mm-hmm. And
that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
For me, I put it on the table. You better get me, or I'm gonna get you. That's what. If they want to put it on my tombstone, they put it like that. You better get me, or I'm trying to get you. That's exactly the way I think about it.
Yeah, and that's
because I gotta put it all on the table. Because, that's what people pay their money for. That's what I trained so hard for. That's when I ran in the rain. I ran in the sleet. I ran in the snow. I sparred many, many rounds. I dieted. I did all this stuff. I can't leave any questions on the table when I walk out that ring.
Yeah.
I gotta know that I did everything in my power to win. And I exploited God's gift to me personally. You know what I'm saying? He gave me this Peter punch of power, and I gotta go out there and exploit it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And when you were active still, was it important for you to be great? Was it important for you to make the Hall of Fame? Were you fighting to do it then too? Did you even think about it at the time?
I didn't think, like I said, with me and my career, when I seen something, that's when it became an opportunity to me. But I didn't never showed it to me. I never knew about it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So with me and my whole career, it wasn't really prevalent to me until I brought it to Travel to Hall of Fame weekend. I didn't even heard of Hall of Fame weekend until they invited me up. You know what I'm saying? So when they invited me up, and I'm looking at all these champions and all these rings, and all these great champions that I've heard of before, with Basilio and Jake LaMotta and Hagler and Hearns and Sugar Ray and Aguayo and Pryor and Johnny Tapia, I was like, wait a second here. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I need to be. And I was actually I just won my second world title at that point. I just beat Luis Espinoza, and I was up there, and actually they were asking me to fight Derek Gainer. So the year that I went up there was like before the Gainer fight, and with a fighter, just like an athlete, any athlete, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, they need motivation to do what they do, to be great. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. To do something that people think they can't do. And when I saw the Hall of Fame, I realized my job wasn't done yet. Yeah. I had to do enough in my career to not consider me, but to get it.
Yep.
And that's why the Gator fight happened. And I mean, like I said, it wasn't like I didn't even know it was the Hall of Fame. So by me going, introduced me to something I had to do. I got 2 world title rings, and I got the 5 title belts, and the 2 pair of golden gloves. And I realized that the last nail in my coffin, of course, is that Hall of Fame ring. Mm-hmm. And this is just the beginning with with New York City recognizing my career. Okay, and it's the beginning. So this here is the first Hall, and I feel so happy that they acknowledge me. Because like I said, you think that they forget about you, but I'm glad that they acknowledge me and what I do, and I try to keep them seeing me by commentating and broadcasting on a daily basis, as much as I can get involved in. So that's what my next thing would be, is to talk about the sport in a fashion that I think that has never been brought to the attention of a spectator.
Yeah, and they had to be fans. I mean, we're lucky we had you, Kevin. Do you think you're going to be emotional that day?
I have no idea. You have no idea until you're in a situation. You never know. Yeah. You can think all day, but you never know.
Yep.
I mean, I tell people all the time, I say, until you, like I said, it's like in boxing for me, until you're in a situation, you never know. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I never knew I could do the things that I did in the ring. I never knew that. I'd be lying to tell you that I knew that. I didn't know that. I didn't know I could tolerate just a pounder from Troy Dorsey, or fight with one eye closed like when I fought Smoke Gainer, or take the beat I took from Ricardo Rivera. I never knew that. I always tell people, boxing introduces you to yourself. That's what it does. Mm-hmm. It's an introduction to who you are. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Because unless you're put in that situation, you don't know. People say, well, if I got shot, I would do this. No, you wouldn't, because you don't know. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if I got robbed, I'll do this. You don't know. Until you're in that situation, you really don't know. And boxing is an introduction to yourself. So to me personally, what I did, I'm as amazed as the spectator is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't know that Kevin Kelley that did those things.
What Kevin Kelley would you say was the absolute best Kevin Kelley you could have been? In what fight?
Kevin Kelley.
What fight?
Maybe you probably didn't see this fight. When I was up and coming, the best fight that I watched and tried to duplicate over and over and over and over and over and over, and I could never do it. I don't know, maybe the moon was lined up that day great or something. But I fought a fighter named James Pitts. It's on my record. At the time, he was 39-2 with 30 knockouts. Kenny Rosen trained him before the state in the Kutchers, right? The fight was on TV. He was by MSG, and James Pitts didn't like me for some reason. I don't know why. He just didn't like me, and he told me in the press conference, "I'm gonna knock you out. I got more knockouts than you got fights," which he did. He did.
Mm-hmm.
And I never replied back to him and stuff like that. I just kept sucking it in, using his negative talk as motivation for me. And he kept talking. He pushed me up the scale at the weigh-in. He had to separate us. And Randy Gordon was the commissioner at the time. And it was at Kutchers. It was so exciting because I knocked him out in 4 rounds. And the way I knocked him out was I caused a riot because they thought I spit on him, but I was talking to him, leaning over him as I knocked him out on the ground. And people started throwing things and throwing beer bottles, and I was caused a riot. And actually, that got me more fights from state New York because they liked the action. So what happened was, I explained myself, and I got fined and everything else. They fined me and commission, almost causing a riot and everything. But it actually did a lot for my career because I knocked out James Pitts, who was the #1 junior featherweight in the world. He was #1 in the world by junior featherweights, and we fought at featherweight. And the way I knocked him out was incredible. I dropped him in round 2 with an 8-9-10 with a double jab, left hand, and he was pissed off. He really couldn't catch with nothing solid, and I was standing right in front of him. And with my hand speed that day was unreal. If you seen this fight, you were like, wow. My hand speed was like, I had never seen my hand speed like that. It was incredible. I think because he was so dangerous as a puncher, I didn't get hit by him, so I was actually took my speed up a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I would hit him, and I'll be out his way so fast, and that's where the flush and flash. And when I knocked him out, I was punching him on the way down. With my speed, I was able to hit him as he was falling. And when I hit him like that, I just bent over and told him it's over. I didn't say nothing else, but it's over. Meaning, all the fighting, all the arguing, all the bickering, all the negative talk, the fight is over. Right? And I walked to the corner. But the crowd believed I spit on them, so they started throwing things. And if you ever see that fight, if I could find a way to download it on YouTube, I think the boxing world would go crazy on it because the knockout was incredible. I mean, the punch him on the way down, hit him with shots, it was incredible. It was like his body wasn't on the ground yet, but as he was falling, I was walking towards him and catching him with punches on the way down.
Wow.
So it was an incredible thing. Another good fight I do like. I'm going to give you this, right? Actually, this was on MSG. I fought a guy that was 28-1 with 17 knockouts named Vito Ramos. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I just have dreams in my head on how I knock guys out, right? So I have a lot of knockouts. And I always want to knock somebody out and jump over them. Right? And I always wanted to, for some reason, I always saw me doing that. Like a superhero, As I'm hitting them, I'm flying over the person. I don't know, as twisted ideas as it is, it happens. I'm fighting Jose Vito Ramos, and as I'm punching him, just like I was hitting tips the way down, I'm in the air, and I'm punching him, and I'm just flying over the top of him and hitting the ground. And that fight was incredible, too. I knocked him out in 2 rounds. And when I hit him, everybody thought it was a dangerous fight for me. And, it was a very dangerous fight for me. Because he's 28-1 with 17 knockouts. He was a Dominican kid, could punch really good, really hard puncher. But the knockout was ferocious. Mm-hmm. It was ferocious, Double left hand, I left him totally on the canvas, his eyes rolling around the back of his head, and the medical doctor had to rush in. I really thought I hurt him. I really thought he was hurt. I didn't wish he was hurt, but I really thought he was hurt for a minute there. Really, really bad.
Wow.
He felt worse than Gainer. When Gainer felt bad, he felt worse. So that's why I knew when I fought the Prince that he didn't know who he was about to get a ring with. Because the way I hit guys and the way he hits guys, I told him in the press conference, your guys get up, my guys don't get up. That's why I knew that to me, he was in over his head. That he thought that I was going to be like those fights he had in England. And I watched his fights, and I was there, and I took him fight, inferior competition and do away with him, but there wasn't nobody with a heartbeat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Me out fighting guys like Gainer and Dorsey and Vito Ramos and you know what I'm saying? And these top fighters, and I was not knocking them down, I was knocking them totally out. Mm-hmm. So I said, if I hit this guy, he's gonna be wild. And and I give him credit.
Yeah. So
he tolerated some abuse.
Yeah. And the James Pitt fight and the Gino Ramos fight, That Kevin Kelley, how do you think that Kevin Kelley would have done against the past featherweight greats? People like Willie Pep and Sandy Sadler and all the guys that came before and after.
Knowing what I know now, I think we had a lot of problems. Willie Pep, Sandy Sadler gave me some issues, but every tall guy in my career I've knocked out. Smoke Gainer and Rios, 6 feet, all 6 feet. I think with Sandy Sadler, he would have took a hell of a beat. I think he was a hell of a fighter, but he could tolerate it. See, back then guys were tougher, so he would have took a lot more of my punishment. You know what I'm saying? Yep. He would have took a lot more of my punishment. And if I had my style, if I was in his era, I probably took a great deal of abuse too. But being I was in my era, I think my era, which guys get hit less, I think fighters don't get worse; they get better. So he would have been missing me and trying to hit me, and I'd have been countering him. Willie Pep, a hell of a boxer. He would have given me a lot more problems because Willie Pep was actually a very, very good boxer. So he would have given me lots of problems because he would have stayed in one spot. He didn't have the punching power, but he would have maybe frustrated me a little bit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm, yeah. So Sandy Sadler gave me a better fight because he would have went right at me. And what's funny about Sandy Sadler was, tell you a story about him. He used to watch me train at Gunzz Gym when I was up and coming. I never knew who he was until one day I thought it was an opponent's trainer. And one day I go to complain at Bruce Silverglade about this old man watching me train, and he starts laughing, and he goes, "That old man is Sandy Sadler." So he was in the Bronx to come to Gunzz Gym. So I met Mr. Sandy Sadler. I got a chance to meet him while he's alive.
That's
and it was a great thing.
What did he say to you?
He said to me, me as a fighter, because he's watching spar, I remind him of himself when he was coming up. That's exactly what he told me.
Wow. Yeah, that's...
I didn't know. He didn't want to send me home trying to, at that time, back when I was coming up, this was like late 80s. So I really didn't have a computer at the time and all that. So I really didn't know how to watch him on YouTube or anything like that. So you had YouTube back then. So I really didn't know about him. So I read about him, I believe I went and got a magazine. He was actually in a fight, that magazine, Ring magazine. There's an article on him, and I read about him, and I was amazed about him fighting Willie Pep the 4 times they fought, and Willie Pep beat him 1 time. And I learned about him, and then later on I watched footage of him and how good he was as a fighter. So, he was a heck of a fighter. He might be a little bit of smoke gain, a little bit, but with a little more gain and moves a lot more than he does. He's more of a fighter, You never compare eras because I tell everybody has their own era, and things are different. Fighting is not getting worse, it's getting better. Fighters don't get hit as much as they used to years ago. They don't have cauliflower ear no more. And more fighters, boxing is now its height, I think. Now it's a sport. It's really a sport. Back in the 50s and the 60s and the 40s, that was fighting. It was who was tougher. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. These days, it's who's smarter.
Yep. Yeah.
When you dig at a guy like Ray Robinson or a guy like Willie Pep that fought very smart and stick and move, and made you do things you don't want to do. That guy was like, wow, you're very sharp. Mm-hmm. So these days, everybody fights that way.
Yeah. What would you tell people was your biggest assets and what made you so great? What if someone said, what did he do that was so good? What would you tell them about yourself?
I would say hand speed, number 1. Definitely number 1, hand speed. 2, punching power. Mm-hmm. And 3, definitely a southpaw. And a style that has never been done before, has its own style. It's Taekwondo. It's a combination of different variety of things. Yeah. So, that explained me. I tell everybody that, you just gotta see it. You just gotta see them. You know what I'm saying? I brought something new to the game. Personally, just what it is, is a question mark. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because just like Bruce Lee named Taekwondo, I would have to name it. And what I did was just flow like water. Like Bruce Lee said, I flew like water. Mm-hmm. I just bend and adjusted to things around me.
Yeah. What would you say your weakness was?
Weakness was, I think I got late in my career, I think because I never got opportunity early on, but I did get it. And I think with the first fight, I was impatient. That one weakness, impatient, could have changed the way history looked at me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just impatient sometimes. And that's what I know things changed me sometimes. You got to relax. I wanted to get you when I wanted to get you. I didn't want to wait.
Mm-hmm.
So if I didn't want to be there that long, I want to be there for 8 rounds or 9 rounds. And I noticed that. Like when I fought Luis Espinoza, I was in the 8th round. I never forget. I said to Phil, I'm not getting hit with nothing, man. He slapped me. He said, don't hit by this monster. He'll knock you out. And he hit me. And he said, you're getting impatient again. That's one thing I hear from Phil all the time, that I was getting impatient.
Mm-hmm.
So the knockout for me wasn't coming fast enough.
Yeah. Yep. And I remember Phil saying in the corner sometimes to not get frustrated. And you mentioned being frustrated possibly if you had to fight Willie Pep. Were you easy to frustrate? Or
I wasn't easy to frustrate. It's just if I got so used to having my way, that's the problem with me. I got so used to it in the ring with my hand speed because if a lot of everybody watched my fight tapes and studied me. Everybody thought they could, that my hand speed wasn't what it was. Mm-hmm. So they got to ring me. I always got that into the gym. I always knew that it was an optical illusion. That it looked one way on TV, but when you ring with me, my speed was really different. And a lot of fighters tell me that. Even when I sparred them, like, man, my punching power was very different than people thought. I never got really a lot of kudos for that. You know what I'm saying? I never got a little kudos for that. And that was kind of weird. And I was kind of frustrated with the Prince. I was like, you talk about this guy's great punching power. And I'm like, what am I, chopped liver? My guys don't get up. His guys get up. You know what I'm saying? So what are you talking about? My guys were stretched out flat. There's only one shot I hit him with. It wasn't 2, it wasn't 3, it was 1. You know what I'm saying? And I think I was underrated on my punching power, really. Yeah. Also, that I could switch from righty to lefty, I think that was insane. Mm-hmm. I always did it, but I never talked about it to the press. Because I want fighters to know I did that. Most of the guys that actually knocked out, I knocked out right-handed. So that's a secret that most people really don't know. That a lot of the guys, they watch the footage real carefully now. I was actually right-handed when I knocked them out. Mm-hmm. And that's what got them. It wasn't the idea that I was lefty. It wasn't the idea that I had punching power. I turned right-handed and caught my left hand.
Yeah. Yep.
Totally. So that's what people missed. I think there's a lot of things I guess on the day I will talk about that, like I'm discovering to with you, is my style and that it was different. And that I never talked about it if I went invited to study me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I won't give away my secret when I was boxing. Mm-hmm. But they might figure it out, figure a way to beat me. So I just never talk about it. So I kept it on the wraps. But they might have watched some Jeet Kune Do or Wing Chun or Shotokan and try to figure my style out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That it wasn't regular boxing. I was not conventional. That I did do things very different. That I do punches from weird angles. I used to do Philippine fighting stick defense. I used to use praying mantis technique from Kung Fu. Shaolin Temple was one of my derivers. I would look for information for Shaolin Temples. Stuff like that, you know what I mean? Yep. I was surrounded with a fletcher of martial artists around me. Okay, like Paul Vizio's 9-time kickboxing champion of the world, Sugar Ray Croson, Robert Sugar Ray Croson, a 9th degree Sugar Ray Jiu-Jitsu expert. And I had all this martial arts information around me constantly, feeding me. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. On techniques and strategy and style. And like I said, styles in the fight, and my style was stylist. I was Jeet Kune Do. I was Bruce Lee's, I'd say, his student. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was out kicking. I was doing it all with my arms. You know what I'm saying? And that's where it comes from. It's all Jeet Kune Do. Yeah. Handled in something fist.
Yeah, you still sound like the same old Flush and Flash. You don't sound like you lost a step at all. You're still a young guy, so it's not surprising to me. But do you feel like there's any long-term effects from boxing, or do you even worry about that at all?
No, not really. I take care of myself pretty well now, hopefully, do the best I can. So I stay in this gym, so I exercise. I got a gym in my house now, so I work out a little bit at the house. Anything that's due is due. You know what I'm saying? You can't change it. So I embrace whatever comes. I just feel that God's got my back. Obviously, if I'm able to talk to you today on the phone, it was something that was God-given. And nobody can show what God has built. And obviously, that was my destiny.
Yeah. And who's your all-time top 5 fighters? Your favorite fighters?
Right, that's that. I had the interview earlier. It's kind of funny. You asked the same question.
Was it 5?
I told my wife after I answered that question that we hung up the phone. Mm-hmm. I had a different opinion about it. Why? Not that I named the guys. I I have to go to every era. It'll take me all day to do it because I have 5 favorites in every era. You see what I'm saying? Or 6 favorites. Because you can't compare eras. And that's the mistake I made earlier in the interview. That I said I gave top fighter Mansour Muhammad, Jeff Chandler. I gave them Sugar Ray Leonard. I gave them Hagler. And my finale was Camacho.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's a great list.
Right? And those are guys I watched. Those are guys that inspired me. But that's one era. If you look at the time frame, they're all the same time frame. But I watched Ray Robinson. I watched Henry Armstrong. I watched Sandy Salah. I watched Willie Pep. I watched Jack Johnson. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I even let my wife watch these people. I told her about these people. Ike Williams. So really, all of those guys made me up. So really, I appreciate all their techniques, all their styles, all their strategies. Okay, Muhammad Ali, I watched him. You know what I'm saying? Larry Holmes, watched him. You know, Rockin' Robin Blake, Cornelius Bowser Edwards, Roger Mayweather. All those guys I watched. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I watched and I studied and I watched all of their styles and all their techniques and all their strategies. And of course, I loved my favorites are all the speedy fighters because that's what I showcased. That's what the one thing I want people to remember me by. Dang, that boy was fast. And that's the one thing I like Sugar Ray Leonard, of course, for. Ray Robinson, of course, for. Okay?
Yep.
Henry Armstrong, very fast hands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Guys like that. That's the epitome of what I always wanted to be. I always wanted to say that man, that guy was fast. And that's where I watch. But it's every era. I can't put my finger on any era and say, it's almost like saying to a kid today, who was your favorite fighter? They don't say Mike Tyson. But you expect it because he was the current.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
He was the last big American fighter we had. So you expect it. You don't expect him to say Muhammad Ali. You don't expect him to say Jack Johnson. You don't expect him to say Joe Louis. But if we stretch our back 40, 50 years, they're going to say who was hot at that time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of unfair to the guys before us because I have fighters in every era.
Yeah. And that's what I loved when you mentioned fighters that came up when you were fighting, like Wayne McCullough and people like that. So you did include people from your own era too. And a lot of people think they have to go way back to get the all-time greats, but there's some greats fighting now, and there was some greats fighting in the 90s like you. So you guys all go together. All the greats go
Let me put in a formula for you. I don't believe in great fighters. I don't believe in great athletes.
Mm-hmm.
I said it to a guy earlier that interviewed me. I believe in good fighters that have great events. See, this is what I've started. See, I really look deeper and study what things are.
Yeah.
Why Roy Jones had to have a great fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even though he was a good fighter, he never had a great fight.
Yep.
And it kind of shut him off. Just like Mayweather right now. Mayweather, if he didn't box no more, the boxing world wouldn't miss him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they miss Gotti. Why is that? Mayweather's a much better fighter, but Gotti's more Mr. Revered than Mayweather. Why is that? Because people love great fights, great contests. And I realized there's no such thing as a great fighter, only a great contest. For example, when you watch football, basketball, baseball, a great game. Good players playing a great game. Ali needed Frazier, he needed Foreman, he needed Norton, right? Or who's Muhammad Ali, right? Mm-hmm. Who am I without the Prince, without Gator, and without Troy Dorsey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about the contest. If I ask anybody in the world, say, great fight Roy Jones, the first thing they'll say with me, when he got knocked out against Tarver. Only because he lost the fight. He was so dominant, he lost the fight, got knocked out. The thing about his first to our head is Tarver. So really, unless you have a battle in the ring, that's what makes Jake Amata, that's what makes Ali, that's what makes Foreman, that's what makes Frazier, that's what makes everybody. A great contest. So there's no such thing as great fighters. Only good fighters have made great fights.
Yeah. Do you keep up with
the legacy?
Yeah. Do you stay watching boxing today?
I love boxing. I always love it. I watch it. I love the sport. I hate the business. So, of course I still watch it because I commentate it. So I got to know what's going on. I watched Gloffin because I commentate him. I did his last fight. I'm going to do his next fight. I watched Gary Bell, the new guy that's out. Gary Russell.
Mm-hmm.
I like Keith Thurman. Adrian Broner. Great. Like I said, these guys won't be great until they put on great performance against the guy equivalent to them in age. But Sugar Ray had Hagler, Duran, and Tommy Hearns. Those fights make a lot of sense. You know what I'm saying? And that's why they're great. Not because Sugar Ray was better than Hearns, or Hearns better than Sugar Ray, or Duran, or Hagler, because they all was fighting each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what leaves a great legacy. Something like that.
Yeah. And I can't believe that the guy you talked to earlier even said top 5. I thought I was going to go with 3, but I changed it to 5.
Yeah, but besides, like I said, I realized that people make the mistake. It's the best basketball player, Michael Jordan. Wait a second, time out. What happened to Dr. J? Right?
Yep.
Of course, nobody really. That's the '70s, and a lot of people live in that era.
Yeah.
But where Michael Jordan came from was Dr. J. So you look at it, because who inspired him? Who was he trying to be like?
Yeah.
Right? He was trying to be like Dr. J.
Yeah.
Like me, when I was boxing, I was trying to be like Sugar Ray, Camacho, and those guys. I was emulating what they do, and Bruce Lee, and everybody before me. But if it wasn't for them, there wouldn't be me. So really, everybody comes from somebody, and an idea, and a philosophy, and a process. Just like Ali came from Ray Robinson.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? If it wasn't Ray Robinson, it would be Ali, Muhammad Ali. You know what I'm saying? So really, people are fans of the era that they're in.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of every era, because every era built what's coming today.
And every era in the future is going to look back on your career and love you too.
Like Floyd. Floyd sees me all the time, and he told me to watch my fights. He watched this fight. I was shocked. He told me to watch the Carl Tomo Fernandez fight. I was very shocked. But like I understand, we are the teachers for the work tomorrow. And I fought the Prince. Prince told me he saw my whole career. He told me over the play. He said, Kev, I seen your whole career. He was naming guys that I fought. I was like, really? And this is way before we fought.
Yeah. Wow.
So obviously he watched my whole career, right?
Definitely.
Maybe so old, of course, but he watched my whole career, and he was going to fight me. So, it's out, really a format, a blueprint for the guys to come after us. Just like Paul Malignaggi was on my undercard when I fought the Prince. I never knew that. Ricky Hatton was on my undercard. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I found out later that Ricky Hatton was on my undercard and Paul Malignaggi was on my undercard. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
The reason Paulie Malignaggi got into boxing, because Malignaggi saw me in the Prince fight, was at the fight, and could not believe what was going on in that room. And that's what got him into boxing. So obviously, the effect that I thought I didn't have, I was having.
Yep. And everyone loves you, Kevin. You were a great asset to the sport. We're going to be knowing your name for eternity. You're getting in the Hall of Fames now. Other living members being inducted with you on the 30th is Billy Backus and Juan Laporte and Jerry Cooney, Mustafa Hamsho, who would have been middleweight champ if Hagler wasn't around probably, Howard Davis Jr., Tracy Patterson, and nobody shines more than you did. You were a great fighter. And it's going down March 30th, and I just want to say that it's taken place at Russo's on the Bay in Howard Beach, New York, and it's sponsored by Ring 8. Big shout out there to Ring 8 and the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame and its president, Bob Duffy. A great champion going to the Hall of Fame on March 30th. Thanks for your time, Kevin. I appreciate it, and God bless you, my man.
Thank you very much.